still about to go live. We're going live now. What up, Coop, man? On this Friday, New Music Friday, according to Hip Hop Live. What's going on with you, brother? I'm out of town,
Yeah, I see that. Busy week, Mike, but I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death.
Hey, another Nas quote. Another Nas quote, man. Shout out to everybody who has been sharing our episodes, have been subscribing to the YouTube channel. We're gonna keep bringing it to you. And this week, man, we got some good music to talk about again. Boldy James dropped Bo
Great.
Jackson, man. What was your impression of Bo Jackson when you first pressed play on this one this morning?
I was thinking to myself, I said, this album is really sneaky good. I said, I'm going to have to go listen again.
Yo, he's
I said,
spitting, man.
because, okay, so A Price of Tea in China, like he released, was it 4 projects last year, Mike?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He released 4 projects last year. I thought A Price of Tea in China, which coincidentally was produced by The Alchemist,
Of course.
Bo Jackson, was the best project of his career. I believe it was our 6th best album of 2020.
Hold on. Which one did you say is his best album in his career?
A Price of Tea in China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No.
A Price of Tea in China was his best album that he's ever made. At least in my opinion.
Yo, all right, first of all, he's spitting on this new album, right? He's spitting on Bo Jackson. The whole Peter Pan Neverland shit, crazy. But I know we were talking about verse of the year when we were talking about Lauren, and I also want to throw somebody else in the hat from an album that is highly regarded in 2021. I think Pharrell's verse on the Tyler should be thrown in the hat too. I had a chance on my road trip today to just really take in a lot of albums, but that Freddie Gibbs verse, listen, peace to Lauryn Hill. Love Lauryn Hill. I think that's verse of the year right now. I might be overreacting. Everybody in the chat, let me know if I'm overreacting. What do you think?
I think you're overreacting a little bit, but much like you, when I heard that verse, I said, and that is the competition right now for verse of the year with Lauryn Hill on Nobody. Like when I heard the verse, that was my immediate reaction. I said, those are the 2 standout verses that stand out to me. And that's not to say that Nas didn't have a couple of verse of the year, like stuff on King's Disease too, but Lauren hasn't rapped in so long, Mike, so it just hits so different because of that. It's just like when you hear Rakim on ELE2, it's like, oh,
and the fact that she's talking about things that we've always wanted to know,
right?
And she's such a mythical figure in that sense. If anybody watching this, if Coop kind of looks choppy, it's not his fault. It's not his system. It's me. I'm running off of this hotel Wi-Fi. Sometimes hotel Wi-Fi can be janky when you're out of town. But, the show must go on. But you sound great, Usually your screen looks better than mine, but I think I might have got you right now. But it's not your fault. But yeah, man. So, all right. I do want to say a couple of things because you were talking about that's the competition right now. I was telling you offline, I was watching the Breakfast Club interview with the Locks. I think we aired that on According to Hip Hop like last week or something. But Charlemagne asked the Locks who lyrically is the best in the game right now. And everybody was like drawing a blank, like they didn't know who's killing it right now. And I know what that is. This isn't MCs who work in this industry drawing a fucking blank. These are people that are on commercial radio thinking, who can I and who can I not give props to right now? But anyway, Charlemagne jumps out and says, Rhapsody's the best MC in the game. Respect to Rhapsody and all that. But there's no way in hell Rhapsody is the better MC than Conway the Machine right now and what Freddie Gibbs is giving to the game right now. I've never been that big of a Freddie Gibbs fan, to be perfectly honest with you. But what he's been doing over the past 3 years, for me, makes me go back at his catalog and look at more things. I mean, Alfredo last year, crazy. And before then, hold on, man. Chloe. See, that's another thing that happens when you're out of town. You get left with the dog. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. I know about that life a little bit too. I would have to agree with you, Mike. I was never that big of a Freddie Gibbs fan. And when I say big, I say I didn't love him. Like I always liked him. But I mean, somewhere around 2016, 2017, like Gibbs picked up steam, and he just really is just like ascended and continued to ascend since then. For me, and this is not to say he hasn't made other great projects, but for me, Alfredo, like a step up, and it just leaves me looking forward to what his next project is, because if you look at all the verses that he contributed after Alfredo came out, I mean, Alfredo was the first great album that came out last year, the first classic album that came out last year. So Alfredo was the bar setter for last year. And let's be reminded that he set the bar early. And in most people's minds, Mike, a lot of people still feel like Alfredo was the best album last year.
Right.
I know we got Pray for Paris and With God, like there, but it's like I said, Mike, like Pray for Paris, From a King to a God, and Alfredo last year are somewhere that the rest of the albums aren't. And that's classic status.
Definitely. And even outside of his classic status, his appearance on the Benny album.
That's what I mean. And then you go to the appearances after the album. I mean, his next project is like highly, highly anticipated, in my opinion. And you're right, Mike. I mean, if you were naming your top 5 MCs right now, you would be a fool to not look at what Gibbs has been doing the last 3-4 years and not have him placed there in that top 5. He deserves to be there.
Yeah. I mean, and he continues to show us that he deserves to be there. No radio play. And see, the thing is, and the reason why I even mentioned that conversation is the fact that a lot of those conversations that happen on mainstream radio don't even matter anymore. And I know that the Locks are like they're the last of a dying breed, but if we be perfectly honest, radio never showed them too much love either.
Well, you want to know what radio's done? Radio has played itself with its old ways.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like because of how radio played itself and how it played the artist and how it made them play the game, like the game for the artist has become to do anything by any means necessary to work around the radio and the system and everything involved with it.
And the irony of it,
Gibbs has done just that.
And the irony of it is the fact that the person that Charlamagne even named, they don't even play her records. But
no.
You know,
they don't.
Right. So it's wild. It's like you're throwing something out your ass. You know, I get it. You want people to go check it out, want people to go check Rhapsody out. But the truth of the matter is, the only people that are in contention right now, and, you know, straight, listen, I like Rhapsody a lot. She ain't dropped the album since 2019. It's 2021. It's 2021, and you can't be the best MC in the game. The way hip-hop is right now, you can't be the best MC in the game when you ain't dropped in 2 years. It's just like that right now. You can't be. People come out too frequently. It's too much music coming out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't be.
I mean, so Mike, you know, on the show we did yesterday, we talked about the gravitas of things. I don't totally agree, depending on like the gravitas of the artist, but I get the overall point that you're making at the pace and the speed that everything moves right now. Like just bringing up somebody who was 2 years removed.
Yeah, you can.
From doing an album, because I mean, Mike, I'm gonna be honest with you. The last time I heard Rhapsody was on Busta Rhymes' album last year.
Right, exactly, and that was a great song. I love the record.
She was brilliant.
But we're talking one song, and you talking about Boldy James that has dropped 4 projects in the previous year and dropping an album like this. What are we judging? You know what I'm saying? Like, because we're not talking about hits. Because I think that at the end of the day, there's only a handful of people in hip hop that we expect to have big hits, big radio hits. So if we talking about quality hip hop music, you got to throw Boldy James in this conversation too, for what he's been doing.
So we're going to have some fascinating questions today, I believe, because if I'm not mistaken, okay, like, you know, Boldy's affiliated with Griselda, you know, and it occurred to me today, because I went through some of Boldy's catalog a little bit when I heard this project, because here's what I mean, when I thought it was sneaky good, I was like, this sounds more consistent than a Price of Tea in China, which is pretty great. That's how I was feeling. I was like, but there's no Pinto or Surf and Turf like that. Just like, I'm like a classic joint. And then I went back and listened again, and I was like, oh, no, I was wrong. And I'm gonna tell you, like the immediate classic on here on Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, Fake Flowers, Mike.
Fake Flowers, of course. I mean, we just talked about that.
Flowers is just no. But Mike, the whole song is incredible. I mean, from the track to the way they play off of each other, old school style. Like, part of what makes Gibbs' verse so dope, like on some rap shit, is how he plays off of how Currency ends his verse, but plays off of it in a different manner, the way that you do in a cipher.
You know, I think the first one that got me, I mean, and it starts off strong with double hockey sticks, but the first one that got me was Turpentine, man.
So, I mean, Mike, the second part of Double Hockey Sticks is what really, like, perked me up at first. But this is what I mean about it being sneaky good. It hits so fast and it's so consistent. It's like Double Hockey Sticks was playing again before I knew. And I was like, oh, whoa. I'm like, hold on. What just happened? I was like, I need to listen to that. And then I went back and listened again. And I'm like, everything that you could say that was wrong with A Price of Tea in China or with Boldy James, he corrected on this project. It's a great project, Mike. My immediate thought is that it's the second best album I've heard this year after King's Disease 2.
You know, I know everybody's going to think that we're jumping out the window when we do that, but I agree with you. I actually, I listened to Bo Jackson and I listened to Call Me If You Get Lost back to back, right? Mm-hmm. Call Me If You Get Lost has some skippable moments. Now, I think that we kind of have come to the conclusion that Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator, it has those records that have some legs to them, right? Possible radio records, possible songs that could be in the conversation for Song of the Year and those type of records, right?
Yeah.
But it has skippable moments, and lyrically, I can't.
Really. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say lyrically, I just can't say Tyler is where Boldy James is on this effort. I will say that Boldy James only suffers, to me, from lack of content. And I guess that's since we're like a week removed from King's Disease 2, you know, content has kind of been upped, you know?
So let's speak to a few things that you brought up. My thoughts are like yours about Bo Jackson. The only thing that you can really say is wrong with the project necessarily, which is a rhetoric that you and I have gone back and forth about, and even with the listeners and guests and stuff, is that, you know, it's hard to pull off a classic album with this rhetoric, is what I'm going to say.
It really is.
When you look in the history of rap, what really happens when you make a classic rap album with this rhetoric, you're doing something that's game-changing or game-shifting, or you're talking in a manner or in a way. And so immediately what I thought of today, because I thought, like, why is this album not a classic? And I was like, well, it's because the rhetoric isn't, like, classic in terms of the manner that it is presented. So let's talk about some classic rap albums with this rhetoric and how that manner was presented. And you probably know where I'm going. We'll look at the Purple Tape.
Yeah, I figured you were going to go Purple Tape, Reasonable Doubt, Daytona.
Hell Hath No Fury. I was thinking Hell Hath No Fury, but you could say Daytona too. Like either one of those efforts that Push is involved in. And so it wasn't that just the rhetoric was there. It was that the lyrics were there.
Right.
It was a feel that was there on those albums that was different. So although this album feels great, and it is great, it is missing that classic feel. And with this rhetoric, you need that to kind of put you over the hump.
But see, I would argue that the Purple Tape, specifically, I think it had more to it than just that kind of talk. And the people who were featured on it brought different things to the table, because, you know, that's not where Inspector was coming from with it. That's not where Nas was coming from with it when he was on there, right?
Actually, I mean, Mike, if you look at it, that's where Nas was coming from with it. Like, you know, holding keys inside a pussy with her mind.
Well, it was like Through the Lights, Cameras, and Action, Glamour, Glitter, and Going on Bold Girl.
Yeah, Props is the True Thug's wife. It's like a cycle. Niggas come home, some like no, he was on the same. Like they're the guys that song and that cipher, that's really where all the mafioso, like, from all of them started, like, on that record. Mm-hmm. Like that's really where all that started. I get what you're saying. It's just that those albums have a certain type of feel. Mike, Mike, let's not even go too far back. Let's go to last year, because, like, last year's 3 best rap albums are all in the same vein of rhetoric. Does it feel like it belongs with those albums? Does this feel like it belongs with Pray for Paris to you, Mike?
Well, let me ask you this. No, of course not. Let me ask you this though. But
from a king to a god or Alfredo?
No. But do you think that you know we're getting too many of these projects with this kind of rhetoric? Like, does it get to a point where it's a little bit more too oversaturated in that light? And I hate to say that, but you know what I mean, because these are dope records. But it starts to, after a while, a really dope record that would have been viewed differently in previous years, after we've heard all those records that you're naming in recent memory, does it kind of lose its edge a little bit?
That's very valid and often true. That is oftentimes up to the artist. Let's keep in mind the genre of music that we're in. And so this type of music is feeding the psyche of the have-nots. So, like, you know, and this is what I always say about it. Like, it's a fine line. We can't take the rhetoric away because it means something to a part of this culture, and this culture is built. Right. And so I'm not going to dig off into that too heavy, but here's what I mean. And here's really why this project is great, because here was one of the notes that I really took, Mike, that I was truly impressed about. He got better as an MC on this record, although the rhetoric didn't change. Like I always told you, Mike, he was a solid hook writer. Well, he's a great hook writer on this album. He's always been a dope MC. No, he's really dope on here. And what I mean, like he did the things he listens, Mike. So people always get on his slow flow and draw. And so I don't know if you noticed the tempo on a lot of these records are paced up. They're paced up intentionally to show that he can rap faster. That means he listens to the climate and what people are saying the drawbacks are about hearing some of his records maybe. The tempo is up on some of the records, and Mike, he really, really delivers on those records. And so he sees his flaws and ups the ante. You know, the rhetoric is redundant, but he's great at actually, Mike, I asked myself today, I was like, who's better at talking this way, Benny or Boldy?
And, you know, Boldy's been very consistent with his efforts. And I know Benny has been pretty consistent in past years. But, you know, you and I spoke about this, and I know everybody felt differently, seems like. But Burden of Proof just didn't do it in the way that we thought it was going to do. And maybe, once again, that was because of Pray for Paris and From a King to a God being what they were. And honestly, Burden of Proof is nowhere near those records, in my opinion. But with that being said, I agree with you. I think Boldy has had better output than Benny in the past year or so.
I mean, isn't a Price of Tea in China and Bo Jackson better than anything Benny's dropped the last 2-3 years?
Yeah, it's better than better than Burden of Proof, and it's better than Plugs 2. I don't know if it's better than Plugs 1. I like Plugs 1 a lot.
So I would put this somewhere in the stratosphere with Plugs 1. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed this from beginning to end more than Plugs 1.
It gives you more than Plugs 1 does.
It does.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking you'd have to go back to Tana Talk 3, Mike.
Right. I was thinking that too.
I still feel it's his best project.
Yeah, Rubber Bands Awake, 97 Ho. Yeah.
Rick, Mike, I told you my favorite Benny song is Rick. Stack the Yay and Cruise. Yeah. Like that.
Yo, man, Benny is due for one. We love Benny, man. Benny is due for one. He got MC of the Year from According to Hip Hop in 19, I think it was. Was it 19? Yeah. It was 19 because Conway got 20.
Man, that dude said plugged in by immigrants who sell bricks and sandals. It's a difference between risk and gambles.
Yo, man, Benny got it, man.
To live over the big piano.
Benny got it, man. I'm looking for.
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah, he got it.
It's not a question if he has it. It's not a question if he has it, Mike.
Benny is the method man over there, man. It's like we're sitting here waiting for an effort that is going to match what we know is what we know. You know what I mean?
It's all there, Mike. It's all there.
But Conway keeps delivering, and you know, and I know I've been a Benny fan. I mean, we're both fans of all of them. But I've been Team Benny while you were Team Conway. I gotta admit it, man. Your guy is winning, just like your guy is winning in this Jay-Z and Nas thing too, man. Because, I mean, we covered.
Mike, I'm always gonna pick the guys that stick with the roots of the culture. Listen to the guys that you're bringing up. Now, I'm picking the guy that's not taking like the spotlight more because he's staying more with the roots of the culture, like Conway and Nas are playing it a little differently than Benny and Jay, and it's not saying there's any more. There's different ways to play this game, Mike.
Right,
but you know, I'm just telling you what I prefer.
You know, I've never seen anything like this Nas phenomenon, and the fact that, you know, we kind of dug deeper in these media publications, go out there and give him subpar to bad reviews when the public clearly feels different. We're gonna go back to this Boldy James, but I do want to. I want to go to this HipHopDX because a lot of you guys, shout out to our whole YouTube audience, man. A lot of you guys were telling us that it wasn't just Pitchfork Media that was doing this to Nas. They were saying that, yo, HipHopDX wrote a terrible review too. Now, did you read the HipHopDX review?
Mike, I don't need to. That's why I brought up that 96 vibe. It was written review. This has literally been happening about every album that Nas has made other than Illmatic.
Well, all right. Well, let me go to the screenshot of it. Now,
why you think Hate Me Now got made, Mike? Like, he called this early.
You're right. HipHopDX gave this a 3.8, right? And out of 5. But then they have it where the community can actually do their own rating. 28 people gave it a 5 out of 5.
It's embarrassing.
And so it was only 2 people that didn't give it a 5 out of 5. So the community rating is a 4.93. So you're sitting here with a 4.9, but the reviewer gives it a 3.8. How are we so off?
Well, if you're saying we, as in like the separation between...
I mean, we as in the fans. How are the fans so off from the writer?
Right. Well, I mean, it's writers, Mike, and it's media publications. Mike, this isn't about the writers. I keep telling you, like, Mike, there's some sort of agenda.
It clearly is.
How many? I mean, Mike, just think. We haven't even been doing this podcast for 2 years, and this is our 3rd time having to pull up about a Nas review.
I mean, it's crazy. It's insane, man. I mean, I you know what? I never really noticed that it was this bad. And you know, another thing that Nas gets killed for, which I don't even think is that bad, is the fact that people always want to ping him as a terrible beat picker. This is the man who has Nas's like, "It made you look" in his beats. Now, there's a lot of guys out there whose beats, I think, who consistently pick bad beats. And he's not one of them.
So, Mike, the conversation I told you, it's not really that he's a bad beat picker. It's about the beats that fit him. That's what's so important. What Hit Boy did with like sneaking all those beat breaks in. It works for Nas. That's what people are really saying. It's not that he picks bad beats. It's like, how about this, Mike? When you listen to a track, remember the Flyers? Mm-hmm. That beat is dope. That's not for Nas.
Andre Shashir, shout out to you, man. You're checking in the room. He said they gave the Carters a 5 out of 5. I believe it. You know what I mean? You know, but I want to go back and talk about this beat picking thing, man.
Very problematic.
Because at the end of the day, Nas's production is actually really good. I mean, if you want to talk about some of the beats that Nas has in his catalog, they're some of the best.
No, that's what I'm saying, Mike.
You know who's a bad beat picker? And, you know, no disrespect, great artist. But I think T.I. is not that great of a beat picker.
I would agree.
He has some in his catalog, but he never gets pinged with that. You know, and I don't think he's that bad of a beat picker where we even need to talk about it like that. But if you want to sit here and ask who has better beats in their catalog, Nas or T.I., it's not even a question that Nas has better beats in his catalog. Who else you want to line Nas up with? If we want to sit here and talk about how bad he is at picking beats, you want to line Nas up with Lil Wayne? He has better beats than Lil Wayne in his catalog, too.
Right.
Well, you want to line Nas up with Jadakiss, since everybody's on this Jadakiss high right now.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
But
Nas has better beats than Jadakiss, too.
Well, I mean, I told you, Mike, he does a lot of GOAT stuff on the low that doesn't get stated, and the things that get overstated get stated too much. Him being a bad beat picker is one of them.
It's a lie.
That's what I mean. It's just that, like, when he picks certain beats, it's like, no, that beat is dope. It just doesn't work for what Nas does.
Right.
And like Nas does a lot of things well, so that box is wide. But you know what I'm talking about with that comfort and that fit. That's what's so beautiful about King's Disease 2, is that he makes things that have been like points of contention for even Nas fans about how the record sounds in terms of the comfortability. Oh, well, it's all comfortable on King's Disease. Brunch on Sundays is comfortable.
I think that a lot of people, when they talk about his beat picking ability, they always match it up to Jay. I think that has to be what it is, because nothing else makes sense. Maybe Big, but he has better beats in his catalog than Tupac does. Am I wrong?
Without question. I was about to say, Mike. I was actually about to say he's a better beat picker than Tupac.
Yeah. So why does he get this?
I don't know. This is what I mean about how you. This is what I mean about that 19. Mike, go read that 96. It was written review. It's talking about the production and how they're so mad at the beats that he picked. That's where all of this started.
Yeah.
It started right there. They're not questioning Nas the MC. They're questioning Nas the MC some on It Was Written, but mostly what they're questioning is his selection of beats for It Was Written. And they're saying, like, it's hard to, like, you know, like vibe to this the way we vibe to Illmatic. It's like, okay, that's arguably the best rap album ever that just came out like 23 months ago. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it really wasn't fair. They put it up against Illmatic and like every other great rap album that ever lived. And like production wise is where they harped, and it's like from the moment they harped in that 1996 Vibe review on It Was Written, it's been the harping point ever since.
Andre Shashir says it usually takes me up to 10 to 15 listens before I'm sure an album is a classic, but KD2 is. And you know, again, how are we so separated from the fans? You know, we're not gassing the fans. The fans are coming up with their own mind. Shit, we're fans. You know what I mean? We're fans that get on this microphone and present our ideas and conversations that people have on the phone as hip-hop fans or in person on, you know what I'm saying, a broadcast where everybody can join in. So how are the fans this far apart from what the quote-unquote professional writers are saying? We got people saying that this thing is classic, and then we got writers saying, 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10. Now, I think I would be remiss. The other individual that we were talking about, Stephen Curse, I guess y'all went on his Twitter and started blowing him up. Not sure, but he removed his review from Pitchfork Media. He had posted his review on his Twitter, but I guess people were getting at him and wanting to know why he actually gave this album what he gave it, and he deleted it. So I don't know. That's the crazy part, though. People can't even stand by their own reviews. If you felt like that album was that bad, that subpar, and you had so much to say about it, when people ask you, just break it down.
Right. Well, here was my thing and the point of contention with it. Because I went up on his Twitter page, Mike, and I posted my review up on his Twitter page, and I replied to him, and I asked him to engage because he was like, you know, he made some flippant comment about like, you know, people are more concerned with the artist brand than with the art, you know what I mean, and something about engaging with it, and I just pretty much told him, I was like, nah, you just don't really know anything about Nas. Like essentially, as like, and it reflected so in the review, and that's why people are getting on you. I was like, but come on, engage though. I asked him to engage. Like you want to talk about the art of it? It's like no. I'm willing to have that conversation with anybody, anytime.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man.
About the art, and not just of King's Disease too. Like we can talk about whatever.
We're music fans, man. We're not those kind of people, man. I'm a huge Outkast fan. Like Outkast is probably one of the big reasons why I do what I do to the level that I do it. But Idlewild is not it. It's not. No, you know what I'm saying?
Idlewild don't slap at all. I never play Idlewild.
I'm not gonna never ever. I'm not gonna sit here and lie because it's Outkast. Like, well, you know, artistically it's this, and this. No, Idlewild is not it.
Mike, when people try to put Idlewild in Outkast catalog, I'd be like, that's a soundtrack to a movie.
Right. I mean, you know, it's just put together. That's business or whatever. That might be the only excuse I'll make for Idlewild, but I'm not going to sit here and excuse the album like it's dope. Sean J said, when people say Nas is a bad beat picker, it's a lazy and ridiculous argument. I'm glad another podcast is discussing Nas other than my own. I love what you fellas are doing. You gained a new loyal listener. That's what's up, man. Shout out to your podcast, too. Put your joint in the link. Put your link in the chat. You know what I'm saying? We'll go ahead and subscribe to your joint, too. Joe Bro says the review was so disrespectful. He had me heated. I guess he had other people heated, too. He had me heated because he couldn't stand by it. And the fact that he went back and deleted it, and it's like, bro, just stand by your review. That's it. What were you gonna say, Coop? I'm sorry, I interrupted you, man.
No, I just want to get fans' names so I can go support his stuff like on my own personal page. I like to support people that support us and all that stuff.
Yeah, his name is Sean J on here, but yeah, put your podcast in the chat and all that. You know what I'm saying? Holler at us. But yeah, so I found it very interesting that he deleted that. So, you know, I would tell people to go to Pitchfork Media's page. They still have the review up there. I saw people on Pitchfork Media's page basically telling them that the review was bullshit too. But it's crazy that the writer wouldn't stand by his own review. Where do they do that at, man?
You want to know why, Mike? Because it's like I said, he mailed that review in and he got called out on his bullshit, not just by us, but by just like social media in general. Like, dude, what are you talking about? Like a 6.1?
You know what it makes it seem like? It makes it seem like all the stuff that we were talking about the other day is right. They're paying people to give Nas bad reviews.
No, Mike, I told you, there's something that's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
For a very long time. Like, Mike, go look at how they, I mean, I'm not even going to bring them up, but you go look at how they rate you know whose albums at Rolling Stone and go look at how they rate Nas. It's like, what is you were gonna say. Yeah, well,
I mean, let's look at this Nas thing, man. 3.8 is what the writer gave it. Now, when the people, and I know it wasn't a whole lot of people, but you got 30 people who read this review or who chose to actually, you know, cast their own rating. They came with a rating of 4.9. 28 of that 30 gave a 5 out of 5. Now, regardless of what you want to feel like these viewers are, these are the people that actually felt compelled enough to go forth and not only read the review that HipHopDX put up, but actually give their own review. So they can't be too off. And some people, and you know how the internet is, people are trolled, just be assholes and put 1 star just to throw the shit off. That didn't even happen.
I was actually about to say, Mike, that lets you know that the album is great is because in this times that we live in, people are more likely to literally hate on your shit than like to go give it the appropriate rating. The fact that people are like going up there and rating appropriate, because let's keep in mind, Mike, we're saying 28 of the 30 people gave it a perfect rating, but it's got a 4.9, which means the other 2 people like rated it like 4, still rated it like high. You know what I'm saying? Higher than he did. Like they didn't rate it a 3.8, or it wouldn't be like at a 4.93.
Speaking of ratings,
people for it to take it. You know what I'm saying? But here's one thing that I will say that I've just noticed in general, Mike, and here's why I'm so passionate about it. And I'll just tell you something personally. You know, I've been with According to Hip Hop now for 5 years. I think this week, sometime in these next few days, if it hadn't already passed, I've been like, it's when I reached out to you and started like writing editorials and the reviews and stuff. But part of the reason why I did it, Mike, it was twofold. One, I could see that you was like pumping and humping your shit and you wasn't getting a lot of help, and I liked what you was doing. But the second part of that, Mike, when I used to go and read these reviews before I started writing them, like I felt like I was seeing a lot of great writers that didn't really know a lot about hip hop, and it's kind of holding the true to form 5 years later. No, I'm not talking about you as a writer. I'm just talking about like you may not know what you think you know about hip hop. And like you need to start getting checked about that because what you do is impacts and reflects the culture as well. Yeah. And so the way that you all continually downgrade Nas, that downgrades his stature when you haven't made your voice.
This is the thing, man. And to piggyback off of that, I know we're in the digital age. I don't mean to interrupt you, but to piggyback off of that, we're in the digital age, but print means something. You know what I'm saying? Like we sitting here having conversations about It Was Written vibe review from 1996. When you put something in print, it stays. And so 10 years from now, people will be able to Google these reviews and be like, oh, this is what they were saying about this album. It's documented. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what makes it even more dangerous. And the fact that, like you said, you got these people who are very talented writers, but just writing some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? For lack of a better term.
I mean, Mike, that review was so dangerous they didn't even put a rating on it. They knew they were doing what they were doing, but they talked about it like it was like a 3 out of 5. They talked about like it was written like it was a 3 out of 5. Like that's what I'm saying. Like they knew what they did, and that set the tone because that's when Vibe was the publication that like even beyond the source at the time, people were gravitating to about how they were running the media and the people behind it that originally started it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it had the push of the right people behind it to reach masses, even in a way that the source couldn't. So putting that review out about Nas, because keep in mind, this is what I'm saying. In 1996, when they're releasing this review, Nas isn't the star that Big and Pac are yet. He's about to be. Illmatic didn't make him a big star; it made him a legend. There's a difference.
Which I think, to me, is somewhat more impressive.
No, Mike, think about it. His legendary status that he created on that is what held him through all his rough times and through all the battles of the guys that we listed: the Pac, Big, Jay, 50, Cam. Illmatic held that together.
No, definitely. It was the glue for that, and the fans, and the way that Illmatic connected with the fans and has continued to over the years. I think I told you maybe about, I think when Illmatic celebrated its anniversary, that was in April, and I went and listened to it. I listen to it all the time, but I definitely listened to it that morning. I think that album has aged better than any of his contemporaries.
Mike, the best rap album ever made. There's a reason that I have it number 1, Mike, because it's a nostalgic rap album made in 1994 that hasn't really changed. It's actually gotten a little bit better when you listen to how guys rhyme now, and you're like, man, like he rhymed like that in 94?
Not even how he rhymed, what he's rhyming about, what he's rhyming over, the things that he's saying. Yeah.
Part of why it's the greatest rap album ever, Mike, is because the themes on there are classic. Life's a Bitch, The World Is Yours, Memory Lane, One Love, Represent, It Ain't Hard to Tell, New York State of Mind. The themes are timeless.
You're right. I mean, it's a perfect album in that sense.
Perfect album.
One Time for Your Mind is the only outlier, but it's more of a time capsule in that. You know what I mean?
One Time for Your Mind and Halftime are capsule records. The rest of the shit is timeless.
Yeah. You know, everything else that came around in that period, it sounds like 93, 94. Like you said, I think you said in one of our previous episodes, if you want to hear what 1994 sounds like, go listen to Ready to Die, Southern Playalistic. But Illmatic is something else. It don't even sound like that year.
It sounds like the kid from New York that grew up watching his favorite rappers like in a big ass project housing building in New York. Like that's what it sounds like. What it is. It is what we thought it was.
All right, so I was on the road today, and I was going to ask you what you rated the Boldy James album, and we'll get to that. But I was on the road today, and like I said, road trip, had a lot of time to listen to a lot of hip hop albums from beginning to end, old, new, whatever. And I listened to Akumanai from beginning to end. Incredible record. And it's funny, man. I don't know if it's because something that you might have put in my mind. I think you're right. I think Synthesizer might be the weakest record on there.
Yes.
Even though I think that it was one of my favorites because it was giving you a window into who Outkast was about to be.
Right.
Big Boy didn't sound that comfortable on there.
That's part of the problem.
And I love Big Boy, but I think his verse on there is the weakest verse on the whole album. But Dre's verse is so good on Synthesizer, it carried the song.
So that's my problem with Synthesizer, though, Mike.
And this is nitpicking, of course, obviously.
Mike, and we're nitpicking my second best rap album of all time after Illmatic. But that verse by Big Boy is showing how uncomfortable he is at that moment being on Dre's Stankonia shit that he's already on. And they should have just let Dre have that song, especially seeing how they went ahead and gave Big Boy West Savannah.
I don't think Dre's ever been comfortable with being on a song by himself. Like you said, it sounded like Big Boy got dialed into that. It's like, well, I got to give him a verse. You know what I'm saying?
All those things you're saying are right.
I got a dog right here. Whenever she hears somebody in the hall, she just barks. It's cool. You don't need to protect me. I'm cool. Go in your house. But yeah, but it's interesting that you said that, and I've never been able to take off the blinders because I love that album so much, and I love the song so much. I've never really been able to step back and look at it objectively like that. I was listening to these albums today and hearing them with different ears, and I also, talking about timeless and things that aged well. I listened to Midnight Marauders, and I listened to Award Tour. I listened to Electric Relaxation and all that, man. I hate to say this. I mean, I'm a fan of both groups, heavy. But Tribe's music aged better than Outkast's music.
I don't agree with that.
Tribe's, I think that as the MCs go, Dre and Big Boy were collectively better MCs than Q-Tip and Fight. But just the way those Tribe songs sound, man, them shits they don't have a year on them. They don't. And I'm not saying Outkast had a year on them either.
So I guess Tribe's records feel more timeless. Outkast records feel more innovative. I
could give you that.
I would put Outkast slightly ahead about what you said because the MCs are better. But here's what I will tell you, Mike, like on the low, I think Award Tour might be one of the 10 best rap songs ever, though.
That shit's amazing, man.
I mean, Electric. Every time I play that record, I regard that record the way I regard They Reminisce Over You, Cream,
the way it comes through the speakers.
I'll be there for you. The way it hits, the way it makes you feel, the vibe that it takes you in, the memory that it takes you back to the first time that you heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it does.
The hook. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Hip's verse is one of the best verses ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got everything of an all-time great rap song, Mike. It's right there for me. Every
Electric Relaxation is too,
Mike, and it's one of those records like all-time great rap songs have. You know when it's coming on immediately, and when you hear it, you turn it up.
Yeah, it hits. You know where Q-Tip said he got. You know where Q-Tip said he got the inspiration for that track when he made that beat from? Have you heard that story?
No, that's one of my favorite beats ever, though.
He got it from, the concept from, was it Jay? Don't Walk Away. That beat's crazy, too.
No, that beat is great. That beat. I mean, Mike, I believe you said like in a personal post of yours that like Jade's "Don't Walk Away" like
that's one of the best hip hop songs.
R&B is.
Yeah, that's one of the best R&B songs of the '90s. Point blank. Period.
Yeah, no, Mike, I agree with you. That's one of those songs that signifies the sound of '90s R&B. And when you're saying that, I can see where he pulled from that. Like Mike, I love that record. Like every time that track comes on, it's like no, cut that up. Yeah. And I want to tell you something about that record, and here's why it's like in the conversation for 10 best rap records ever. That's one of those records that when I can be with anybody and play that record. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you can dance to that record as well. And also, too, Mike, it came out in a time when the climate was changing. But that was one of those records that kind of like the old school heads could dance to, but like the new school G's could still vibe with. And they connected everybody and all the dots on that record, too. Like, super important record.
And then, it's important because it gave us a world award tour, too.
Yeah.
Deep House Nation says, is HipHopDX still relevant these days? Gotta wonder what politics are behind their review. Payola. Beijing said Nas references Marcus Garvey in his debut album. That's what had the establishment shook.
And Malcolm X. Let's not forget the Malcolm X reference.
Sean J says you guys broke down that Pitchfork writer to pieces while sharing quantifiable facts about Nas. I had to share that show with everyone that rocks with my podcast and made my team dial in to you guys. Appreciate that. But yeah, make sure you share us your podcast too, because we want to get up.
Yeah, share your stuff. We're going to dial into y'all too.
Yeah, definitely. But Deep House Nation doesn't agree. He says Outkast didn't age as good as Tribe. No way. I guess I'm not wording it right, man. I don't know what it is about Tribe's music, man. It just sounds so current to me. Everything from the second album and the third album.
More timeless. Yeah, it's more timeless because like the records feel more timeless. Like when you hear some of the Tribe records, you're like, oh no. Like that sounds more recent than the Outkast record. And that's why I go to the innovation. when you hear certain Outkast records, it puts you in a vibe creatively about where they were in that space,
Exactly.
and it makes you appreciate the record because now you know and know they're never going there again. Like everywhere they went, they never went back to again.
That's the special part about what they did. It makes
special.
each album like a time capsule for them.
Like
Sean
Mike,
J says, go ahead.
Mike, every time I hear Benzo or Beamer, which came out in between Southern Playalistic and ATLians, I'm like,
95.
couldn't y'all have rap couldn't y'all have just rapped like that for one more year and then did ATLians in 97? Couldn't y'all have rapped like that for one more year?
Well, they gave us a little bit of that on Spaghetti Junction on Stankonia, but that was
I feel like Spaghetti Junction got recorded in 1995, Mike.
I don't. I feel like Spaghetti Junction was 2000 cast giving us old cast because they sound like the new guys. You know what I'm saying? They sound like cast after Kumanai, but they went with the old track. That's brilliant. I want to know. I mean, Big Boy hollers at us, man. I got a lot of questions for Big Boy, man. I was listening to Kumanai today. Like, I would love to do a Big Boy interview. I got some real
questions. Big Boy
questions.
holler at us?
Yeah, man. Well, you know, he followed us on Twitter. Well, you know what? I want to ask Big Boy because him and Sleepy Brown got that new album coming out, right? The Big Sleepover. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to West Savannah, and I want to know, like, what are the top 5 Big Boy and Sleepy Brown collaborations?
Mike, that's my favorite one.
I think so, too.
That's my favorite one. West Savannah's my favorite shit, man.
Niggas
I love
in the
West
South
Savannah.
where go teeth and
How about
go
this,
tank.
Mike, when I heard West Savannah, like when I remember playing Aquemini for the first time, when I got to West Savannah is when I realized I was listening to one of the greatest rap albums ever. Like I was like, oh, because like I was like, you held this,
and that was a leftover, right?
You held this from us.
I listened to every part of that album, skits and all. Where it was like, I know y'all players thought we wasn't gonna come back with this shit right here. Oh man. Sean J says Illmatic is a bridge to the new wave of hip hop in the mid '90s. Rappers had really put emphasis on rhyming and putting together comprehensive pieces of work.
I mean, you know what? You want to know what Illmatic really did immediately?
What's that?
It put Preem in the game heavy with everybody. Because when you're listening to him,
he was an outlier. He was a Gang Starr member. Then yeah, you're right. Yeah,
he was a Gang Starr member.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying. Like all these guys really had never really stepped out their box. But he's the guy that made the most out of stepping out the box, and the results were immediate. Because, and here's what I mean, they're immediate. When you listen to Unbelievable, you're like, that's when everybody wanted him because it's like he did that shit for Nas, and then they heard Unbelievable, and they like, we gotta have him.
Right.
We gotta have him.
Triborough says, So Fresh, So Clean is my favorite Big Boy and Sleepy collab. I like that one, too. I was thinking that, too, and I was like, West Savannah, So Fresh, So Clean. You got The Way You Move out there. Like,
like even though it says West Savannah, there's something about West Savannah that just feels so ATL to me that it's like, I know I'm never going to hear again from them.
It's vintage. You're right. And I think you brought up a really good point when you talk about Outkast. That's one of the reasons why I guess the Tribe stuff feels more timeless to me, because Tribe never was hitting on current topics. You know what I mean? Like, they might say a little punchline here and there where you knew that's what was going on in the world. But Outkast and Goody Mob too, their music was about what was going on around them in the world around them. And I'm in Atlanta at the time. I know firsthand what's going on in the city. So maybe that's why their music kind of, like you said, takes you to a place. But the dope thing about Outkast was like, after this album, you're never going to get this Outkast again. We're going to move on to something else.
Yeah, you know, and they do different things for different people. So you're talking about like, well, you're in Atlanta. Well, I'm moving to Charlotte from Atlanta around the time Players Ball is coming out.
Yeah.
And so like they helped me with my transition because it made the transition. Because the things they were talking about, it's like you were saying, Mike, it's like, oh, I knew those things. I knew those places. It brought me some comfort. You know what I'm saying? And so they're important to a lot of people down here, a lot of different ways for that. You know what I'm saying?
I know we kind of discussed this on another show, I think. Maybe we didn't, but who did you put on your Atlanta Mount Rushmore? Because I know that was a meme going around. Who did
I
you
mean,
put?
I don't know if I did one, but immediately 3 Stacks, Big Boy, and T.I. come to mind. Am I only getting 4?
Yeah, you only getting 4.
Ooh, 3 Stacks, Big Boy, T.I. I mean, partial to Jeezy, just personally.
I'm going Future. I agree with those 3 that you did. I'm going Future as my 4.
I was about to say, Mike, but if we're going to be objective, because I was actually about to say I should put CeeLo in, even though I prefer Jeezy over CeeLo, and that's not to say that Jeezy's a better MC than CeeLo, because I don't feel that way. Just prefer to hear his music over CeeLo's music. But Mike, if we're speaking objectively, it's Future. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're going to be objective, it's Future.
Yeah.
And my cousin Mark down and the fam down in Newton gonna love that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think that my backups would be Gucci and maybe Thug. But yeah, I got Andre, Big Boy, T.I., and Future.
Well, Mike, here's how deep Atlanta is.
We got
right
Ludacris
now.
in the chat here.
Mike, we could do a whole nother starting 5. We could go Gucci, Jeezy, CeeLo, Quavo, and who'd you just name, Mike? Damn,
Somebody just said Ludacris. R. Stewart, 1000.
Luda, Mike, we're leaving out Luda, Mike. That's 10 right there.
Man, this is how I feel about Luda, and I think anybody who knows me personally, you too, man. Like, I mean, like from back in the day, Ludacris, Chris Lover is an Atlanta legend. Period. Like, I think his legend is something else, but I don't think that he has the impact on Atlanta directly through the MCs.
His influence can't be felt the way the other.
Because it's there.
Tip and Jeezy and Gucci's influence more.
Right.
He is, and so I get what you're saying. Even though he's great, I get what you're saying.
But what he did in radio, to me, and maybe I'm skewed again because I'm from here and I was around in the 90s and the early 2000s in Atlanta. He's a radio legend in Atlanta to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, first and foremost. So, and what he did in the ground that he broke in radio and showing that you could come from radio and be a superstar in hip hop, like that, he changed the game for Atlanta as solo stars, period. Because after Luda made it, people were like, oh shit, we can actually do this and, not be local artists anymore.
I met him maybe a year before Back for the First Time came out. He came into a record store in Charlotte called Manifest that I worked at, that I lived up the street from.
Right.
Trying to get some consignment on this EP that he had called Incognito.
Yeah.
And I watched him literally go to the trunk of his car and pull out the CDs and sign the paperwork with my manager and put 10 copies in our store. Yeah. That was my first meeting.
And I remember when he was on the radio at that time, we were in high school. We was like, we went out to the store to make sure we bought Incognito. So, and just based off of the freestyles that he would spit on the radio. So I never want to make it seem like I'm not, giving Luda his props, because Luda's incredible. I think Luda's incredible as an overall artist, period.
So let's speak to Luda the businessman right quick and what radio did for him. So he came into that chain that I worked for called Manifest. Manifest had 7 stores in South Carolina and North Carolina. I believe most of those stores are closed now. I don't know if they have any of their stores left. But Mike, Manifest is like more of a cultish pop rock alternative store.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a hip hop artist, to take your shit in the Manifest, you got to really already be on top of your game and know they exist and be on your shit. And so I'm speaking to that moment, not just to talk about meeting him. Mm-hmm. He was on his business game early.
Well, now that you say that, and I'm reading some of the comments in the chat, R. Stewart says that alone puts him in number 2, how he evolved as a radio DJ to an MC. Sean J. said, definitely agree. Luda is phenomenal and played a huge role in the Atlanta movement, but he's just felt isolated in regard to his reach in Atlanta hip-hop. But what he's done as a businessman, he was far ahead of all of us in Atlanta when it comes to business. Like you said, nobody was coming out the trunk like that. You were either trying to get a record deal, or you know what I'm saying, or you just stay like on some big oomph shit.
Mike, I can remember the general manager of of that record store laughing after he left out because the name of the album was Incognito. He was like, Incognito. He was like, Armand, you gonna listen to this? I was like, where? I was like, he from Atlanta. I was like, I sure am. Like, I sure am.
That's what's up. But I mean, yeah, it's like, you know what? There's an argument for Luda to be on that Mount Rushmore because of what he did for the business.
So here's what we need to talk about. What matters more, the business acumen or the influence? Because if we're going with the business acumen, then we're going to take Future out and put Luda in, actually. But if we going with impact, Future's impact can be felt more in this city than Luda. And that's that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I guess that's just the argument. You know, are we talking sonically? And I'm thinking we're talking sonically, but Luda paved the way for a lot of things that I guess, like you said, we can't see. There would be no 2 Chainz, right?
Right, I was about to say, and Chainz too, but I was like, Mike, if we talking just MC wise, we going 3 Stacks, Big Boy, CeeLo, T.I., and we gonna have Chainz like be like the 6th man off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like if we just talking rhyme skills, like for me, like of all these dudes that we named, I would in that order I would go 3 Stacks, T.I., Big Boy, CeeLo, and I put Luda and Chainz at a tie. If we just talking the MCs, we talking MCs.
I think Luda is a better lyricist than Chainz, but you know I do tend
have a better delivery. And
I do tend to enjoy. I do tend to enjoy Chainz songs a little bit more. Now,
Chainz is entertaining. And it's crazy to say it. He's more entertaining verse to verse than Luda is. He's entertaining.
That's crazy to say. I never thought that I would utter those words, but I feel where you're coming from.
It's true. He's more entertaining verse to verse than Luda is. Because you know what Luda's going to do. You don't know where Chainz is going to take it or what Chainz is going to talk about. It's entertaining.
Well, Luda, you don't know where Luda's going to come delivery-wise. People are bringing up Killer Mike. You don't know where Luda's going to come delivery-wise, but you don't know what Chainz is going to say.
How we leave out Killer Mike? Mike, we deep in the A. Listen to this. Future, 3 Stacks, Big Boy, T.I., Thug, Gucci, Jeezy, CeeLo, Quavo, Luda, Chainz, Killer Mike.
They say no love for Big Gip. I love Big Gip. I got a quick look.
Gip's a personal favorite.
He's a personal favorite for me. Gip and Cool Breeze are personal favorites for me. Honestly,
Gip more than Breeze, but I love Breeze too.
I feel like Gip and Breeze were actual solo stars in the Dungeon family, but those projects never happened the way they needed to.
How about this? Breeze and Gip are more the sound of the Dungeon family than any of the other Dungeon family. How about that? That's the vibe I get.
You know what song?
The family sound comes from those 2 guys, really.
In the style, I guess image-wise, comes from Gip too. Yo, there's one song that I think it really exemplifies what the Dungeon family is sonically, and that's Holiday from Witch Doctor, EJ the Witch Doctor. And it's crazy that Organized didn't even produce that. But
like thought process is still the
incredible stuff, man. Incredible
process is the same. So hold on, let's get back to Boldy right quick.
I was just about to say, let's get a Boldy rating before we get up out of here. I know we got to go.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's go through a couple of things. Where do you have it rated, Mike? I mean, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts, man, I got it right after Nas, man, because I think, like I told you, I listened to Boldy and Tyler back to back. From end to end, I think that the Bo Jackson album is better.
It's tough,
and this is reacting right now. Now, don't beat me up in the chat, man. Like, this is just reacting on a Friday that it came out. But
you're not overreacting, because I'm going to tell you what's going on. I might have been wrong about the Royce thing. Might have been wrong about the Dipset thing. Ain't no might have been. I was wrong. What's wrong with both of those things? I ain't heard from Royce. Has Royce dropped something, Mike?
Royce has not dropped anything.
That's very problematic. Yeah, but here's what we've been right about, Mike. When I listed my top 5 albums of the year, I was like, well, these are all the albums that we said that were the album of the year when they came out up until this point, and that's only because King's Disease 2 came out, and so I'm going to list them off from 5 to 1. All the Brilliant Things by Skyzoo.
Definitely.
I got Call Me If You Get Lost and The House Is Burning.
Mm-hmm.
high.
Okay.
Because I really think that that's about what you prefer.
Right.
When I can't make up my mind, because truthfully, if I'm going to do my list, I'm going to put Tyler at 4 and put Isaiah Rashad, The House is Burning, at 3, actually, because I actually prefer to hear shit like that.
Well, I was gonna flip it just for the innovativeness, but you're probably right. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I go to Isaiah Rashad's project before I go to Tyler's when I'm talking about press and play. Yeah.
And then after that, I would go to Bo Jackson, and then I would go King's Disease 2. And these are the top 5 albums this year. But here's another thing that I noticed, and here's what I really wanted to go over for you. I thought that Sky Zoo's All the Brilliant Things. How did we rate that, Mike? Did we give that what? Did we rate it? Or did we just say it was the album of the year up to this point?
I think we just said it was album of the year up until this point. And if we rated it, I want to say it was around a 4.5 to 7, something like that. Because it's a very, very dope album.
I feel like it's a 4.5 of an album.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, Mike. Number 2 and the 2 that I have tied at 3 are 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are all 4.75s to me. And that's what I'm giving Bo Jackson.
4.75?
And so, Mike, the way, and I want you to understand something. Bo Jackson, Call Me If You Get Lost, and The House is Burning, these are all great albums. But I don't think any of those albums are classic, but I think they're all pretty damn close. I think they all fall short for separate reasons. And, Mike, this is why I wanted to give, and this is why when I did the King's Disease 2 review last week, I was like, I kind of feel the 5, is because you can see the difference between King's Disease and these next 3 records.
Yeah.
And
we can't give them the same.
But that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah.
What's the difference? The difference is the actual man behind the mic and his abilities?
Some of it is the man behind the mic, Mike. But Mike, on Wednesday when I texted you, I was thinking to myself, like, I've been listening to Nas since I was like 12 years old, and he's like literally dominating my music system right now. Like, that's very problematic for you young niggas.
He's the GOAT, man. It's what it is.
Mike, but Mike, I'm going to tell you something honestly, Mike. For as much as I sing his praises, I don't listen to Nas like that anymore. I done listened to his stuff so many times, Mike. Like, when I'm sitting up here talking about him and stuff, Mike, I can't tell you the last time I listened to some of the stuff that I talk about when it comes to him. So for him to have me like this right now, it's like, no, that's a 5. It has staying power. And this is what I do want to say, that, and here's where the MC comes in, Mike. When you land on the content and you got the music and the songs to back the content, the shit gonna hit different.
No, you're right.
Like, and it doesn't matter necessarily what the content is. It just has to have a depth that touch people. Like NWA and Public Enemy really touched people. It was just in different ways, but there was depth and content to it, whether you liked it or not.
That's real. Well, shit, man. I think the Fly Guy's dropping the double album next week, so we're definitely going to be talking about that. We
Mike,
really appreciate everybody who went out there and was riding on these bogus articles that were written, or reviews rather, that were written about King's Disease 2, man. If you're just now checking in, the writer for Pitchfork Media, he deleted his review off of his Twitter. I guess, you know what I'm saying, guy was killing him for it, but, you know, well deserved.
Mike, what if I told you that if the artists who are supposed to drop, that we think are dropping, like, quote unquote, do their job? What if I told you, like, this year is going to end up being better than last year?
That's crazy. We'll see. We'll see.
No, Mike, I'm going to tell you what it looks like right now.
Well, Conway's dropping his album. I trust that.
That's what I'm saying. So, Mike, Conway, Pusha, at some point, Kanye has to drop. He's been forced to, because we've posted that he made $7 million in merch off on it. So he better drop. He just took a lot of money from people. He better be dropping an album.
Yeah,
There's still
hopefully.
Kendrick floating around.
That's supposed to come out next week, too, I think.
Who?
I think that Donda's supposed to come out on the 22nd, allegedly.
First of all, I told y'all the first time when I did the Donda review live, need to go back in the lab.
Yeah.
So I don't believe him. And Westside Gun, but Mike, just those 5 guys alone dropping their projects is enough to, like, shift the balance of things if they drop. But Mike, I want to go through, like, and I only went to 8 because I didn't know where to go after this. But the top 8 albums this year, it just sounds better than the top 8 albums of last year, or at least very, very comparable. I think it's comparable. It's not better. It's comparable. Listen, King's Disease 2 by Nas, Bo Jackson by Boldy James, You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator, The House is Burning by Isaiah Rashad, All the Brilliant Things by Sky Zoo, La Maquina by Conway the Machine at number 6, The Off Season by J. Cole at number 7, Pray for Haiti by Mach Homie at number 8, and Peter Rosenberg's Real 8 at number 9. And then I got Plugs 2, Cool Ice-T, MF Doom and Czarface, Lloyd Banks, The Course of the Inevitable, 7 by Ransom.
Yo. Sean J said Fat Joe dropped today. He dropped that Gangsta Grill. I haven't had a chance to talk about it.
The Grill dropped
Yeah. Chabo said, Fat Joe and DJ Drama's project is banging. That's what they're saying. It's got 9 tracks on it. He got a song with Lil Yachty in French Montana called Africa. He got the intro with CeeLo. Trying to find it. What's that?
I said I saw the track list. I thought the track list was
Yeah. So I'm gonna check that out, man. I should have been checking that out when I was on the road today, but I guess I didn't realize that he was dropping this today. So yeah, we got to catch up on that. And what we can do is, depending on how we feel about it, I mean, from what we're hearing is banging, we should do a short on it, sometime during the week and talk about this thing.
I'm about to pull it up when we get done. I'll ride to it sometime tomorrow, start collecting thoughts and stuff.
All right, cool. So
you got any final thoughts? Like, what do you think? Like, how would you rate the Boldy James?
I agree with you. I think that 4.5 to 4.7 is very fair. Like I told you before earlier in the show, I think I'm going more so 4.5 because, just the lack of lyrical content, but he's killing it lyrically. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think, again, that's just my brain being wired that way because we're a week or so removed from King's Disease 2. You know what I'm saying? And somebody covered a lot of things. The drug dealer rap is dope. You know what I'm saying? I have this theory of why it's so exciting to listen to. I think that it is one of those few times in society that we're able to hear Black American men speak from a point of power. And it's exciting to listen to.
That is a fascinating analysis, Mike, and you are totally right.
Yeah. That's when you hear Black men.
The rules. They're making their own decisions.
Yeah, they're making their own rules, their own decisions. If you fuck with me, it's going down.
Problem.
We need to hear that. And I think that's the fascination we have with drug dealer hardcore rap. So I'm never going to knock it. But at the same time, like you said, it's a ceiling with that too.
So here's why it's not a 4.5 to me and it is a 4.75, Mike. Alchemist, Mike. Alchemist and the guest appearances. Alchemist and the guest appearances because, Mike, I mean, we talked about the Freddie Gibbs verse and we got so enthralled in the verse, we forgot to bring up Rock Marciano's verse, which is crazy dope, Mike.
Yeah, it is. And I'm a Rock Marciano fan.
Mike, I'm not as big as a fan of him as you are, but that verse made me be like, I need to go listen to his next project as soon as it drops. That's what that verse did for me, Mike. Currency's verse right before Boldy's was dope, Mike. Stove God. Album hits. It slaps. They delivered. And if this is released through Griselda, this is another notch in their belt too, Mike.
Yep. All right, well, shit. We got a lot to talk about during the week and next week. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you go subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. And we're going to be here talking this hip-hop next week, man. I'm going to holler at you, sir.